Hey everybody, jumping in real quick before this episode. So this is an older episode that we did as a bonus podcast before we had the Patreon. It's on the Tales from the Crypt series. We do 3 specific episodes. This is one of my favorite episodes we've ever recorded. A PSA, I'm watching the thing, so you can probably hear that in the background. We recorded something this week that won't be out until October. It's a crossover that you'll get to hear like late October, but that was a solid 4-hour record, so we weren't able to get to a regular episode this week. So we're throwing out this bonus episode. This is, like I said, one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. It was extremely fun to record and kind of reminisce on our histories with Tales from the Crypt and to talk about our favorite episodes. If you like this episode and you would like to, there's pretty much what we do every month on our Patreon, where we each pick a movie, talk about it based on a theme. You could do that at patreon.com/IHopeYouSufferPodcast. And if not, just enjoy this Tales from the Crypt episode. This is probably one of our least heard episodes because it was released pretty much only on Bandcamp and then was put up on our Patreon really before most people jumped on it yet. So enjoy us talking about 3 Tales from the Crypt episodes, and we'll be back next week with an episode on Carousel the Second. Welcome to the second bonus episode of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
I'm Katie.
And we are going to be talking about Tales from the Crypt and breaking down a couple episodes and just... Kit's gonna hum the theme song for the next 2 hours.
The entire thing.
That'd be amazing. I wonder how long it would take for somebody to just immediately never listen to it again.
Just switch it off immediately. I want to
Ever again.
I would say at least by the second time going through it, someone would be like, alright, fuck this. I mean, probably...
Is that someone when you're listening to it to edit it?
I was gonna say, as I'm editing it,
I'm
just gonna make it louder. It just progressively gets louder until by the last 20 minutes, that's all you hear.
I like it.
Alright, so I guess first, Kit, what is your experience with Tales from the Crypt?
Scared the shit out of me as a child, like all things on this podcast. I remember we had HBO when I was a kid, and it would always be on. So I would just sneak it on and see what was going on, and I'd be moderately creeped out by the Crypt Keeper, but I don't know. There are a few episodes that really stuck with me, like Carrion Death.
Yeah.
I just remember him dragging that dead cop through the desert. That's just my default to it. But
yeah. What about you, Katie?
Pretty much the same thing. I touched on this a little bit, like in our past episodes, where it was like one of the first sort of like I was definitely way too young to be watching it. Same thing, we had HBO, and whenever I would like my stepdad used to travel for work, so whenever he was gone, I used to like sleep with her and she would fall asleep in like 2 seconds and I would just like stay up and watch HBO. And I'm pretty sure Tales from the Crypt was on at like midnight. It was on like pretty late. Like definitely was not supposed to be watching it and I would watch it. And I remember being young enough that like after the theme song, you know, at the end when the Crypt Keeper like pops out and laughs or whatever, I remember like that being scary. So I have no idea how old I was, but I definitely should not have been watching it. And then it would give me nightmares. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess sort of the same, except I watched it all on like the reruns that aired on like TNT or TBS, I forget which one. So it was already just like the edited versions of it, but also like haunted me for like specific episodes or like visuals that like I would just lay in bed and just be like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, for sure.
The episode where the dude has the like dragon tattoo that he can't get rid of, and at the very end, it's just like they find him and he's standing there holding like the entirety of his like chest skin in his hand, like with the dragon on it.
I have it coming up like in one of like my top 3, but the episode, fuck, what's it called? Fitting Punishment. That's at like the funeral home, and it's like the dude who's like cutting cost and just like whatever, but there's like the scene where like the shoes come down the stairs by themselves.
Oh yeah.
And like I slept a lot where I would like fall asleep on the couch next to the stairs in our house.
No, fuck that.
Yeah. It's that like I have that like as a pretty distinct visual like anytime I think of this show. That's like one of the first things that pops into my head. And then I think really like the first, like I would watch it, but it was always just kind of like it was on late at night and I would just watch like whatever. But I think Demon Knight was like the first thing that I was like, oh, like this rules. Which also came
This is
like,
good actually.
You know, like towards the end of the series, but Demon Knight and Billy Zane's Hellfire Dick, 10 out of 10. Not so much the sequel.
I definitely feel like. So, what year did this come out? 89?
I think it premiered in like the summer of '89 and ran till '96.
Yeah, I feel like. I mean, I definitely wasn't. I was definitely watching reruns at that point, and I'm trying to like peg how old I was because I remember like. I mean, I was watching it at the age where like I could. I think I remember watching having nightmares from X-Files too. So like, I don't know.
Yeah, X-Files had some fucked up episodes because I didn't watch a lot of it.
Luke, man.
I have like a real distinct memory of the one about the guy that can like just like dislocate all of his bones to like fit into things.
Mr. Toombs?
I was never a big X-Files fan. I just remember I would watch episodes as they came on like after The Simpsons and whatever.
Right.
I recently tried to like rewatch it, but I didn't get very far. It's not that it's not good, but like
it's a lot.
I don't know. It's hard to binge for me.
Each season is like 30 episodes long too. So it's a commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one that gave me the most nightmares was the one that there was like these creatures in the woods and they were invisible, but you could see their like glowing red eyes. Do you guys remember that one?
I don't. I probably never saw it.
Okay, well, so I had this fish tank in my room that would make these like bubbling sounds, but at night it sounded like something like running up the stairs, and I was convinced that it was like those invisible creatures, and it scared the shit out of me. So like I think this is probably one of the first Tales from the Crypt was one of the first things that I watched that had like gore like that, because a lot of these are like pretty gross.
Yeah, it's definitely especially for like a TV show, it was probably pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Um, I was doing like just some general kind of like research to just find out some stuff about it, and there are a fuck ton of spin-offs from it, which like obviously like most people are probably aware of at least Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood, the movies.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a third one that was gonna be made that I think was originally supposed to be the sequel to Demon Knight called Dead Easy, aka Fat Tuesday. That was gonna be like a New Orleans zombie movie, but that got like canceled for Bordello of Blood for some reason. And then they just released that like Ritual movie, which is really not tied to any of it whatsoever. But apparently From Dusk Till Dawn and The Frighteners were originally set as Tales from the Crypt episodes.
I actually connected that earlier because I was like looking through some of the directors that had like done the different episodes, and I saw that and I was like, no shit.
The Frighteners makes a lot of sense because it was produced by like Robert Zemeckis and shit. But like From Dusk Till Dawn, I don't even know how you make that movie in like 30 minutes. But like this one I knew about because I remember like watching it a little bit as a kid. But there was a cartoon called Tales from the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, I did.
Oh yeah,
Pretty it rules.
Except the Crypt Keeper is like so weird in it because he's just like a green like goblin.
I mean, well, that's like a little bit more in line with how the Crypt Keeper looked in the comics, I guess. Not so much green, but like the Crypt Keeper was just kind of this weird, like fucked up dude, as opposed to like a dead body.
A skeleton, yeah.
I watched today on YouTube that thing I sent you guys that is The Secrets of the Crypt Keeper's Haunted House.
I watched it too.
It was fucking crazy. Amazing. I'm so mad there's not more episodes, but it was like a children's game show along the lines of like Legends of the Hidden Temple and shit, and with the worst effects I have ever seen.
Hell yes.
Yeah, it was like weird green screen room sort of like.
It's insane, and I wish it was still happening, and I wish I could have competed on it.
I love how the team names were like Sloth and Hog.
Like not
and,
even like anything remotely scary. It's just like two
No.
animals.
They're just like trash animals.
Sloth versus Hog, the ultimate showdown.
I think we got a new movie on our hands.
Why not combine them? Sloth Hog.
There's also like a radio series that was episodes that I actually found and downloaded that I cannot wait to listen to. But apparently there was like 8 that were actually recorded out of 13 that were planned, and like one got cut because it was apparently too gruesome to be put out, which I desperately want to hear now.
That's crazy.
There was apparently going to be a show called Two-Fisted Tales that was like a spin-off that was going to be on kind of based on more of like the action side of like the 50s comics that these were based off of, but it pretty much like Fox passed on it and they just got turned into actual episodes of the show. And then there was a sci-fi spin-off called Perversions of Science that I also kind of want to see, that was just based off more of the sci-fi comics of like the time period or whatever. I don't know if I didn't look up to see if I could find those episodes, but I kind of want to see that. It sounds interesting. There's also
got a sweet name.
Yes, it does. There's also a couple albums that were released, which is one that's just music from the show, including the Crypt Jam, which fucking rules if no one's ever heard it.
This is the Keeper, where I have a tasty treat, inviting you all to a feast. Only the best of fiends can come. We'll have skeletons of fun. So come on down to the Keeper's Zoo. I'm sure it will get rave reviews. Be on time if you can. But this is the Crypt Jam. Just jam. Oh, jam. This is the Crypt Jam. The Crypt Keeper's in the house with a groove that's nasty and mean, like the effects of a guillotine. Permanent headache's the end of the mission. For you have entered the Keeper's TerraVision. So everybody just make that dash. A dash to the Crypt Keeper's Monster Bash. So come along with the Keeper's plan. For this is the Crypt Jam.
Everyone,
I have.
They did a Christmas album, right?
Yes, have yourself a scary little Christmas.
I love it.
Yes.
With the song titles like Deck the Halls with Parts of Charlie. 12 Days of Cryptmas.
Naturally.
Should old cadavers be forgot? This one is for Kit. There was a Monsters of Metal Tales from the Crypt album that was released.
Oh shit, yeah.
Featuring everybody's favorite Megadeth.
Of course.
And mostly, like, I don't know how any of this ties to it whatsoever, but, like, Wolverine Blues by Entombed is on it for some reason. Like, The Bell Witch by Merciful Fate. And it'd just be, like, every couple songs, like, the Crypt Keeper just pops in to, like, talk.
Dude, shit, yeah. I see Dio and Anthrax. I'm buying this. I'm buying the CD.
I figured you would. Yeah, I would like to watch all of these spin-offs somehow, so I need to find those, because I'm very intrigued, especially by the sci-fi one. But yeah, so basically what we're going to do is we each picked one episode that we're going to break down, talk about, and then I think before each one we're going to do like our personal top 3 that maybe like that basically don't involve the episode we picked. So I just figured we'd do them in the order they aired, so Katie's would be first.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them what episode you picked and why?
Yeah. So the episode I picked was All Through the House, which is like the second episode, which seems kind of lame, but I picked it because when I was rewatching it like for this bonus episode, it was one of the only ones that I remembered. Because it's been a long time since I've watched any of them. So that was one of the ones that I stuck out. But like as I was rewatching it, I really like the way, like, first of all, they have obviously it's called All Through the House, so it's the Christmas-based one. It has like actual Christmas songs in it because they're listening to the radio, and it has its own like soundtrack. And I think they like intermingled them really cool. I think the way that they did the music timing was really cool, and I think it has a lot of really, really cool shots that I just think everything about it, like the set, what happens in it, like it all just really came together for me. So I just thought it was a really good episode.
It's pretty good, and like as I was watching them today, I realized that we each kind of picked 3 like distinctly like different things from Tales from the Crypt that all kind of like encompass what the show was about. Like, and All Through the House is pretty like slasher, like kind of heavy. Mine is just kind of like a weird like contained tale that is just kind of like creepy but not specifically like horror. And then Kit's is just like a fucked up one that should be everybody's favorite. But yeah, before we go into that, do you want to kind of go over your top 3, Katie?
I have more than 3,
Well,
if
fine.
that's okay. Well, Ventriloquist Dummy is one of them. The other ones that I picked were Four-Sided Triangle, which is the one where the girl is in love with the scarecrow. Three's a Crowd.
Three's a Crowd is great.
Yeah. Corman's Calamity, for obvious reasons. That one's the one that's about the comic book artist that like draws things and it comes to life. And then my other one was Top Billing, which is the guy who's like into theater. Do you guys remember that one?
Oh, John Lovitz?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I didn't get like super far when I was rewatching it. I only got to rewatch like the first 2 seasons, but Those were the ones that like stood out to me the most about them. And then I don't know, I tried to Google this. I was telling you guys before there was like one episode that really stuck in my mind from watching it from when I was younger, and the only scene that I remember is that it had something to do with somebody like vacuuming out people's brains. Do you remember that? Either of you?
That doesn't.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
That doesn't strike anything with me. But I'm also only into like season 3 of my rewatch from like.
Okay. I tried to just like Google it, but that's like a weird thing to. I didn't get any hits, but that's the one that I like remember, and I'm like pretty sure it was Tales from the Crypt. But so we'll see.
I hope it was.
I'm gonna Google brain vacuum real quick.
Okay.
I hope it's like secretly like Are You Afraid of the Dark or like a kids show for some reason.
Well, there was another show on HBO, and then maybe I'm just getting it mixed up because there was this like show that was like a crime show where they were talking about how there was like a like a crap, like a fair, and there was a haunted house, and then it turned out that there was like a skeleton decoration that was like a real skeleton, and like I don't know if that was a part of like whatever that show that was. I don't know. I think
the only other HBO shows I remember specifically ever watching was Mr. Show, and then my girlfriend at the time was way into Sex and the City, so I had to watch that.
Boo.
Yeah. So I could probably tell you everything that ever happened in that fucking show.
Listen.
And then, do you remember like the autopsy show they had? I'll take that as a no. Well, I guess real sex as well. But they had a show that was like,
oh my god, real sex.
Real sex was amazing and terrible.
No, should not have been watching that either.
Yeah, same. There was like a show that was just like about autopsies and shit. That was
no,
real
I
fucking
do remember
weird.
that.
Late night HBO got bonkers because
It
would be like weird horror shit and then like real sex and like Red Shoe Diaries and then more horror shit, and it was, I feel like, probably fucked up an entire generation of people.
And here we are.
Yep. All right.
All of them have podcasts now.
Yeah, right. The only thing, I don't like Sex in the City, but
terrible.
I remember like my parents used to watch it when we were eating dinner, so there's a lot of really gross things that happen in that show that I'm like, I'm just trying to eat my spaghetti.
Unfortunate having to try and watch that at dinner, but also with your parents.
With your parents. Yeah, same thing with The Sopranos, so like, I don't have... Yeah, anyways.
Explains a lot. All right, so the first one is And All Through the House, which is, as Katie said, second episode of season 1, but was originally, like, I think, made as the pilot.
Yeah, I was really confused because I thought it was the first episode.
I think it's the first one they made, but aired second.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it aired June 10th, 1989. I was 7.
Really? Huh?
Well, I said I was 7.
I was 2.
I was
just
3
2
months old.
Oh my god. When I saw it came out in June, I was like really like brave of them to do like a Christmas themed in the summertime, but now it's like totally a thing.
Yeah. This one was directed by Robert Zemeckis, which rules, because it's just like, I don't know, like he's done horror stuff before, or I guess it's sort of after with like Frighteners, but this is like pretty hardcore is not the right word, but like pretty over the top for anything I'm familiar with him.
Well, I know that, so he is a director, a writer, and a producer.
Yeah, he's one of like the executive producers that helped get the show going.
Right, so
yes.
Across his like 3 things that he did stuff like Back to the Future, he did Forrest Gump, and Polar Express. But then he also did some stuff on 13 Ghosts and like Ghost Ship and House on Haunted Hill. So like, this dude has some like legit creds.
Yeah, he's like produced a pretty good amount of horror stuff. Like he basically passed off the idea of the Frighteners to Peter Jackson to direct. This movie was written by Fred Decker, who people should know from Monster Squad, House 1 and 2, Night of the Creeps, a bunch of awesome shit. And then, only time I'm going to say it, because I don't need to say it for each episode, but stars John Kassir as the Crypt Keeper, who is extremely subdued in these first 2 seasons. Like, as I was rewatching it, I was like, wow, he's like definitely not the overblown, like, crazy Crypt Keeper that I think everybody's mostly familiar with. But this episode stars Mary Ellen Trainor as wife. You find out her name is Elizabeth at some point in the episode, but she's just credited as wife.
Yeah, which I thought was really weird.
Go ahead.
But she plays Mrs. Marsh on The Goonies.
Oh, she's in like a bunch of shit, but she was in Death Becomes Her, which is like the one I know.
She's also in like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, so people definitely know her.
Yeah, and then Larry Drake plays Santa, who is Dr. Giggles, which fucking rules because that movie is great.
He's also in Darkman.
Yes, Darkman is also great.
A perfect movie.
And then Marshall Bell as the husband / Joseph, who I just wrote down was Quato in Total Recall.
Holy shit. I was wondering why he looked familiar.
Yeah.
He was in Starship Troopers too. The reason that I really like his like IMDb page is because if you go to trivia, it's like he's the first person to die in Tales from the Crypt. I was like, wow, that's like good for him, I guess.
It's a pretty good one. But I think the last person that's even in this episode that's not a voice is Lindsay Whitney Berry as Carrie Ann, who also is the hoverboard girl in Back to the Future 2, tying it back to Robert Zemeckis.
Kiddies. Just your old pal, the Crypt Keeper, having a little holiday fun. Why else would I be in this getup? Unless there was a clause in my contract. In fact, I've got some Christmas goose for you. Goosebumps, that is. Yes, indeedy. A little terror tale chock full of holiday fear. I mean, cheer, of course. So, get a gander of the Yuletide Yelp yarn that goes a little something like this. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house.
So this episode opens with what? Not Maytel. Opens with like painting around a house that's just all set up for Christmas, and you finally get to like Elizabeth, who's kind of just blankly walking around with a fire poker, and her husband is just being a dick. It is like saying something about like the fire, asks for the poker, which she just bashes him straight in the fucking head with, which rules.
That's a really good swing.
Yeah.
He's like, something's got to be done about that fire. Do you have the poker? Well, let me have it.
And then she says, "Merry Christmas, you son of a bitch." Just fucking bashing him in the head with it. And then, like, I love when she goes to, like, try and pull it out, and she can't get it, like, unstuck, and it just, like, his head just flops back down into, like, the table a couple times. Pretty awesome.
Well, and then when she, like, pulls the poker out, it makes this really cartoonish, like, like, pop sound.
It's so good. Like, it just, like, this would have been a great kind of first episode, because it just, like, immediately sets, like, the tone. But I also kind of get the idea of why they wouldn't want to go with, like, a Christmas episode first. So the husband is quote-unquote dead, I guess. Carrie, the daughter, comes running down and, like, interrupts. And the mom, Elizabeth, has to shoo her away so she doesn't see her dead dad, because Carrie thinks she saw Santa. It says something about how she saw, like, Santa outside and whatnot. So The mom like shoos her upstairs and goes to like tuck her into bed. Well, good.
This is like one of the I one of the scenes that when I was talking earlier about how like some of the scenes are really good. This is like one of the ones that's really good because when she pulls the poker out of his head, he sits up. His name is Joseph, and like the daughter comes down and sees just like the back of him and thinks that he's like still alive, but the camera is like in front of him, so you can just like see he's just like his eyes are like wide open and he's like obviously he's really dead. So the whole I don't like this word, but juxtaposition of like it being Christmas and there's like Christmas music playing and he's just like fucking dead and the little girl's like, where are my presents, where's Santa, to me is just like perfect.
I like it too because like as soon as she gets out of frame, he just flops back down onto like the table.
Yeah, and the little girl's like, why didn't Joseph say goodnight to me? And she's like, oh, he's sleeping.
Yeah, so Carrie's getting like tucked into bed. Says she can't sleep because it's too hot. And the mom, and she points out like that her mom is sweating as well. So the mom opens the window even though it's just fucking snowing, like a blizzard outside, which seems like easy way to get your daughter super sick.
Bad parenting.
100%. So Carrie asks like what her mom wanted for Christmas, and she just says, I already got it, sweetheart. I already got it. And then it just cuts.
Murder.
Yeah, I wanted to murder your stepdad. Mom,
The ultimate gift.
should just put that fucking like the whole body like under the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to the mom calling somebody on the phone whose answering machine just says it's the Nick Monster.
The Nick Monster. Leave your name and measurements.
Changing my voicemail ASAP.
The Nate
Yep.
Monster.
And so she like leaves a message saying that it's done and that the money is all theirs. Bunch of nonsense like that. So the mom goes back downstairs and puts a plastic bag over the dad's head and ties it with a bow, which not a lot of blood coming out of this massive head wound.
Yeah.
He didn't have a brain.
Yeah.
There's not anything up there to bleed.
I just like, so like in the beginning he's just like reading Dickens and he has his like brandy, so she like picks it up and she was like, again you kind of have to watch it because the music playing in the background like goes along with whatever is happening, but she just like toasts him the brandy and says, and a happy new year.
It's pretty awesome too because
like sitting next to his dead body.
It definitely starts out like the first like minute is just like, oh, like this is like a nice Christmas seed, and then she just bashes this dude right in the fucking head with a fire poker. It's pretty awesome. It's
just like everything about it is just like it starts off just like at 100. Like some of these I feel like it takes a long time to like kind of set up what's happening, but this is just like right away it starts like super picturesque. Like you could tell these people are rich because they have a piano and a fireplace and it's like snowstorming. It's just like, I don't know, everything about it just is great.
I don't know if every single episode is, but like most of them, like 99% at least, are based off stories that were in the comics. So, like, they all kind of already had, like, something they were based off of. And I think most of them are pretty accurate as far as I'm aware. The last season is kind of strange because they moved everything over to, like, Europe. So everything is shot in, I forget, maybe London, I think it said, but like then it's like all of a sudden like everybody in it is British, and I don't know.
That's so weird.
I don't know if like they kept up with doing straight from the comics or like their own specific new episodes or not. I don't remember like a lot at all from like the final season. I think I've only seen it once.
Oh, I don't remember any of it, but
So,
I
Elizabeth,
don't think I've ever seen it.
do you have the whole box set, right?
I bought the first 5 seasons on iTunes,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
so I haven't watched season 6 in a long time, and I don't think I ever saw season 7.
I used to own all of them and then had to sell them at one point. And whenever we came up with the idea for this, I had like gift cards on Amazon that I just bought the whole box set. So I've just been like
It's time.
Yeah, I've just been like working back through them, and like I know I've seen all of season 7 at least once because there's like an episode where Eddie Izzard is the main person in it, and like I remember like parts of it, but it's I've only seen it once, and it's been probably like a decade since I saw it.
Yeah, one of the things I really liked about like what I did rewatch is that it's like one of those things where you rewatch it and you're like, oh my god, like there's just so many like people who became super big that are in it. Like Demi Moore's in one of them, and it's just like you don't like when you're younger, you don't know like who people are. So
Oh,
that
yeah,
was like
like-
one of the things I really liked about rewatching it.
There's
I don't know any.
Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
Brad Pitt shows up
Yeah.
and caught
Yeah,
totally
there's
off guard.
Brad
I was like, what the
Pitt,
hell?
Like Tom Hanks directs an episode, and I think is in like the Crypt Keeper part of it. Like
Oh my god, Arnold
did the same.
Schwarzenegger.
Like I think Arnold Schwarzenegger and then Robert Patrick were both in episodes or directed episodes right around the time Terminator 2 was like blowing up.
Oh.
There's like a shit ton of people, like even like people that are like celebrities but not like massively famous. Like there's a lot of like John Lovitz was in it, like Bobcat Goldthwait. Like there's a shit ton of like comedians that did it that are all like, a lot of like my favorite episodes because it's like, you know, John Lovitz doing sort of just not humor per se is pretty good. Same with like Bobcat and some of the other people that were on it. No Carrot Top for some reason, but
Very sad.
yeah. Or Pauly Shore.
It's-
Pauly Shore to Tales
Wow.
from the Crypt episode would be amazing. All right, so Elizabeth is dragging her dead husband's body out of the house, and like she grabs a flashlight. Actually, like finally gets him outside as like a radio news warning comes over about a man that has been brutally murdering women in the Pleasantville area, and he's like an escapee from the Pleasantville home for the criminally insane and is wearing a Santa suit.
As one does.
Dun,
Yes.
dun.
As like this radio broadcast is happening, like you see the front door slowly shut as she's like pulling the body down the porch steps. And as it does, you see like her keys fall off her person onto the front table. You kind of are led to believe that she's locked herself out,
Yeah, I don't really
but she
get.
doesn't. So
Yeah.
she drags this body over to like this deep well she has on her property, and like kind of drops like something into the well, and then goes back to the body, which then reaches up and grabs her by the throat suddenly, which is real strange. It has like he kind of is slowly like I guess dying finally, like his grip weakens. Like she hears a noise and walks off to like check it out. As she turns around, she's immediately bumps into the guy in the Santa suit who just laughs and swings an axe straight at her.
Yeah,
He
this
has the
scene,
dopest teeth,
It's
my
awesome.
by
God.
the way.
Like
this
I was
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
he's apparently in like an asylum that has no showers. 'Cause he's just like
Yeah,
No
he's-
toothbrush
he's,
ever.
Like no, like his teeth are just completely fucked up. His like face has that like shit you see in like 30s coal miner pictures.
like soot. Well, he's Santa. He's been going down the chimney.
Oh, that'd
That
be
makes sense.
Amazing if that was part of the story. They just explained that he was getting into people's houses through the chimneys.
Too bad they didn't.
Yeah.
Well, okay. This was like another scene that I really liked because like she gets. I thought she like grabbed an axe and like axed her Joseph, her husband, because she has
Not yet.
like. Well, but okay. Anyways, so I thought she just whatever. So she like hears jingling, And so she's like, "Oh, who's there?" And she goes looking around, and then she looks at her front door, and there's like a wreath with jingle bells, and she's just like, "Oh, it's just my wreath." But she turns around, and it's just like so immediate, slams into him that like I really liked that scene.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then I like their like struggle where he kind of like pushes her back into the well, like bump, like she's like leaning against the well, and she ends up grabbing an icicle and just slashing his face and then kicking him right in the balls. And she ends up like running back to the house and gets in as like he reaches his arm through the door. So they're like struggling. She's trying to push his hand back through the door. And
she's just like screaming at the top of her lungs.
Well, she's screaming, and he's got this weird fucking laugh that goes throughout any time he's in a scene.
It's pretty goofy.
Which makes sense since he then went on to play Dr. Giggles, and all he does for an hour and a half is laugh. So,
he was practicing.
Yes,
that's right.
She finally realizes she's holding the axe and just like stabs him in the arm with it. So he like pulls his arm back, that she shuts and locks the door. Goes to call 911 and starts to call for help, but as she's doing it, she's like looks out the window and realizes like her husband's dead body is out there. She just hangs up, or 911 hangs up on her actually.
Well, this is like a weird too, because she like calls an operator and then is like, "Can you connect me to the police?" And I was like, were they still doing that in the 80s?
No, I mean probably.
Seems hella inconvenient.
I know,
yeah,
right? Like I'm being murdered. Can you please call the police for me?
I just like the fact that like they just hang up on her. She just like stops responding. They're like, "Oh, it's probably fine."
It's not a big deal.
Or she's dead.
Totally not
or too late.
Yeah, she's already dead. Fuck it. So as she puts the phone back on the receiver, you see like in the background like Santa go running by one of the windows. And like she goes to like check on it, and you get a jump scare as the phone rings.
Phone.
Yeah, it's always the phone. As she is kind of standing there like staring at the phone, a fucking tire swing smashes through her window, which seems extremely unsafe.
Having it that close to your house, yeah.
It's a pretty fucking awesome visual, but I laughed so hard just thinking about like her daughter swinging on that and smashing into the house. Santa's like grabs her, and she is like reaching for the axe as he's like strangling her. She eventually grabs it and hits him with like the wide side of it in the head and knocking him out back into the snow.
And he like falls with a jingle.
Yep. The phone rings again, and she picks up, and it's the police calling to just warn people in the area about the escaped patient, and that an officer is going to be like in that area in the next 20 minutes. So
this is like the moment for me though that I don't understand, like why she didn't just say like, "Yeah, he's here now."
Well,
like, yes.
she's still trying to like, because she's got another dead body that like obviously he didn't do. And like
I know,
I get the idea of like you're panicked, so you're not thinking straight. But yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't just like, I don't know, put the fire poker in his hand while he's knocked out and be like, he did it.
or like,
Yeah.
Why does it matter? Like, this dude has already killed people. He showed up at your house. Like, why does it matter how he, like, I don't know, whatever.
Well, like, cause
Swung the fire poker at him, and he ducked
grabbed
and
it
murdered
and
my
then
husband.
stabbed my husband.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, she does pretty quickly come up as she's like realizing what's happening with the plan of like, oh, if I just go like hit his body with the axe, like they could blame it all on this dude dressed up as Santa.
Yeah, like I get at this point she thinks that he's dead. She thinks they're both dead, so I guess she's like, okay, well now I have 20 minutes to sort of make it look like.
Right.
But at the same, I don't know.
It's just dumb like horror logic where no
Right.
one thinks. But at the same time, I have a feeling if somebody dressed as Santa was trying to murder me, I would probably just be like in a puddle crying. So
Yeah. Please save me from evil Santa. I do not want to be axed.
like, well, I'm just gonna kill myself so he can't do it. You get a quick scene of like Carrie Ann in bed, like rolling over, and you see like her windows open. The mom Elizabeth goes back outside and just starts burying this axe into her husband, which, again, no blood, because he's got none in his body for some reason.
Well, he's frozen now.
Yeah, that all froze out.
I mean, I guess.
Or evil Santa Claus is actually a vampire, and that's why he has those goofy teeth to cover his fangs.
That would be amazing.
Just
like if
feeding on
that's
him.
just if M. Night Shyamalan directed it. Just like a useless twist for no reason, but it works. As she's like outside, you see the background, like she put like a boot in the door to keep it from closing, but the wind ends up blowing it shut, and the sound of the door shutting wakes up Carrie Ann. The mom, though, has the keys, so I don't know what. I mean, I guess it's like to get quick access back into the house, but she.
Okay, so I think when I watched this earlier, I think I understood like why she did that, because I think it's like one of those doors that locks. Like if you lock it and then the door shuts, like you can lock it and then shut the door behind you. So whenever the Santa Claus was like attacking her, she locked the door. So this time, when she went out, she just like propped it open with like an umbrella stand so that she could. But she also has keys.
Yeah, that's just.
So like,
yeah, it's
I
weird.
don't know.
But she goes back up to the house, drops her keys in the snow, and when she brushes the snow away, they fell through a crack into the porch. So obviously she goes to search her husband's body, who had his keys on him, even though they were just kind of relaxing at like 11 p.m. on fucking New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve. Like,
Yeah.
Always prepared, I guess.
Can never be too careful.
That's right.
Like, as she goes to the door, she hears something and walks kind of like the edge of her porch and is looking around as a big pile of snow falls and hits her on the head. Which I originally thought was supposed to be like that's how you were gonna realize that like this dude was like on trying to get into her house or whatever, but it's not. She gets back inside and calls to tell the police that the killer's at her house and killed her husband. She goes to look out the window and sees the axe is gone from her husband's body. I do like the touch that like throughout the entire episode, like the husband outside is just kind of laying straight on his back, and when she looks back out that the axe is gone, he's like hunched over sideways, so like when he pulled it out, like it pulled the body. It's kind of like a cool, interesting touch I don't think a lot of people would have thought about.
Yeah.
She runs back to the other side of the house to see that Santa's body is no longer there. Runs back to the phone and is like yelling about Santa being there, and the dispatcher asks if she has like anything to protect herself, which she immediately remembers her husband's gun. She runs up.
A little late.
Yes. She runs upstairs to the closet the gun is at and gets locked in when the door shuts behind her.
Like, yeah.
And then the door handle falls off.
The other thing that's weird about this closet to me is that it has a window in it. I have never been in a closet that had a window in it.
Well, you're not rich.
Personally.
Yeah, you're not rich.
It's true.
This is how they live.
That's the sign. You have to be able to see out of your house in every like capacity.
Every room, regardless, has a window in it. Even if it's in the center of the house,
windows.
There's a window into the next room.
The entire house is glass.
Yeah, 13 ghosts. I mean, I get like the reasoning, but like still, it's kind of weird.
It could have been like any other room, but I don't know. It works. Like, so she's now locked in this room as she sees like a ladder go up over the window, and Santa starts climbing and like sees her through the window. As this is happening, Carrie Ann like pops her head out the window and is like, "Oh shit, Santa's here."
She's so funny. She's like, "Oh, come on, Santa, come on." She's like, "Where are my presents?" She goes, "Hurry up, you big old Santa."
Yeah, Carrie's like just trying, like reaching out to get him into her room as quickly as possible, and like he's just at this point like at the very top of the ladder, standing on like the top rung, and they're like reaching for each other. Elizabeth finally like gets out of the closet and goes running upstairs, and no one's in there. She hears Carrie yell from downstairs like to come down there, and as she comes down, The mom's relieved because she just sees Carrie standing there, but Carrie kind of moves to the side and just is holding hands with Santa, saying that she let him in. Santa just says naughty or nice as mom screams for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts back to like the Crypt Keeper, who just makes sure everybody knows that Carrie Ann wasn't killed because this Santa preferred older women.
Be very careful what you ask for Christmas.
Oh, it's so good.
I wish it had been a crossover with Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Santa had just been like, naughty! And, like, that's where it ended.
He does. His voice is like so weird too. When he finally talks, he's just like naughty.
I don't.
Or
I just like it's my favorite thing that it's the same dude that plays Dr. Giggles. Because Dr. Giggles rules, and it's just I don't know. Like he's like all he does is laugh and just is like super talkative throughout the whole movie, and that's like the only thing he says is this is naughty or nice.
yeah.
So. That's and all through the house. The next one is my pick, which was Cutting Cards from season 2. Because Lance Hendrickson. Mine was definitely difficult to try and pick one, but I went with this one because Carrie and Death is probably my favorite, but just I feel like it would be very boring to talk about because it's just a dude chained to a dead body in the desert. But my top 3 were Dead Right, the Demi Moore one that Katie brought up earlier with Jeffrey Tambor in a worse than the movie Thinner fat suit.
Oh my god,
It's
yes.
so good.
The face makeup is really something else.
Yeah.
I watched it the other day again, and I was like, this is so bad. I also had Fitting Punishment, which I talked about earlier, which is the funeral home one. And then Carrie and Death, again, we brought up. I also liked, the other one I was like debating between with Cutting Cards. I can't remember the name offhand. It's the one that Toby Hooper directed. That like takes place on like a plantation and has the deals with like a fucking thief or whatever. That I was like, I don't know if I want to go into anything with a plantation. We do enough gross racist movies on the regular episodes.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one, though.
Dead Weight?
Yeah, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like I was toss up between those two and then Whirlpool from like season 5 or 6, which is like a like a lady that does comic books, but is like also in like this weird Groundhog's Day like time loop thing that was directed by Mick Garris. But yeah, Cutting Cards is from season 2, premiered April 21st, 1990, directed by Walter Hill, who directed The Warriors, a bunch of other shit. Written by Walter Hill and Mae Woods, starring Lance Hendrickson as Reno Crevice, which is a awesome name. And then
That's an all-timer as far as like names go.
I just feel they were probably like, look, Lance Henriksen's gonna be in like 300 movies. We gotta just do something that's gonna be no one's real name, but seem like a name. Also, pretty good gambler name.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce this other dude's name. Like Kevin Tighe, Tighe.
I think it's just like Ty.
Is it? But
Yeah.
he's in like a bunch of shit too. But he plays
Yeah.
Sam Forney, which is really the only other character in the episode. But I put down Roy Brocksmith, who's the bartender who was the landlord in the Nose Job episode of Seinfeld.
Nice.
We have not had a Seinfeld reference in like the last
Yeah, it's been a while.
couple
That's
movies.
true.
This is an episode that like I didn't totally remember other than like the final shot. But then I was like, Kit came up with the idea, like, oh, we should do this like Tales from the Crypt episode. And I was looking through episodes, and I was like, oh shit, there was a Lance Hendrickson one. I watched it, and I was like, oh no, this has to be like at least on like the table for one of the ones I picked, because it's pretty great, and it's like super, like I said earlier, it's kind of just like a contained episode that's just these two characters like battling against each other, and it's not really like horror specific, but it's like tense.
Well, it also is like, I really like the ones, and part of the reason I picked All Through the House, I really like the ones that like have like it's like probably shouldn't be funny, but like it is funny, and like I feel like they don't all do that. So for me, I feel like the ending is like, you shouldn't think it's funny, but it is funny.
Yeah, it's like that like cruel joke sense of humor the show has sometimes.
Right.
I also like the dude that plays Sam. I think does like a lot of comedy stuff, and so like anytime I see him, it just kind of makes me think of comedy stuff. And then anymore now, I just think of Lance Hendrickson getting fucking killed by Nick Cage and Mom and Dad.
You know, kiddies, after a night of slithering through the sickening slime of my crawly crypt, I take a tip from the Marquis de Sade. He likes to unwind with a little red-hot poker. Tonight's tale from my collection of terror tomes is about a couple of real sharpies who'll do anything for a stab at the jackpot. So, ante up, fellas. The game's about to begin.
So this episode opens with Reno arriving at a casino in a town I don't think is ever necessarily like said where it's at, because it's definitely not Vegas. But
No, because they reference like
yeah,
being there
like
different times.
it also just looks like a storefront they put a bunch of fucking like neon lights in. Like it I don't know. I can only assume it's just like a weird casino in like the middle of nowhere in some town, but it's
like the back of the Quickie Mart.
right.
Like,
So like as he walks in, this waitress says hi to him, and he asks if the no limits table is still in the back and if anyone is there, and she says Mr. Forney is back there. She gives him like a drink chip to where he goes to the bar to get a drink. He talks with the bartender for a minute. The bartender says something about like, I haven't seen you in a while, and he says it's been a year since he's been there. And the bartender just tells him to start watching out for Sam. Calls Sam a real big time player, which Reno says he ain't nothing but a 2-bit hustler. I beat him lots of times in Vegas, which is how you know it's not Vegas. Fair warning, most of my notes are just full on just like monologues delivered by Lance Hendrickson, because they're pretty much all great. So the bartender like finally says he heard a story about how Reno won 50 grand in one hand off a South American dictator, which Reno sort of like acknowledges as being true. And he heads into the back where Sam is playing solitaire, because no one wants to gamble against him, I guess. Reno tells him he used to have a regular game in the back, and Sam says those guys don't come around here anymore because he cleaned them out. And then pretty much all of what this episode is about starts happening, which is just Reno and Sam egging each other on, trying to just like get on each other's nerves to like piss the other one off. Sam says that he's the best, and Reno says you ought to see a doctor because your brain has gone to shit. Fucking good line. And there's just like more of them egging each other on. Sam tells Reno that everyone laughs at him, his wife, and his dumb cowboy look. Reno just gets super pissed, and it's just like, I know you're just playing me. And like they start like deciding what they're gonna play, which I guess is poker. I don't know enough about cards.
I don't either.
Reno tells Sam to deal, and Sam tells Reno that he knows he's broke. Reno tells him he has $100. Sam says that ain't enough, but what he wants is Reno out of his life for good. They eventually agree that the loser will leave town for good. He hands Reno the cards, which Reno just fucking flips everywhere, just like a fucking boss. Lan Hendrickson is killing it. And says he'd prefer to play dice instead. So Reno like puts the dice in like a fucking, what I can only refer to as a Yahtzee cup, because that's the only thing I'm aware of them from.
They just play Yahtzee.
They play Yahtzee and
Loser
Boggle.
leaves town, Yahtzee.
I've had enough of Yahtzee. How about Shoots and Ladders? Loser leaves town.
Operation.
Oh man, I would watch that because no
That would
one's
have
gonna
been
win
so
that.
funny.
So Reno like rolls the dice and gets double sixes, and then so does Sam. Reno is immediately aggravated.
He is doing
So much. And he gets
boxcar.
He gets up and he's like, "Son of a bitch, I got a better way of settling this shit. You want to fuck with me? You want to duel? All right, let's do it. Russian roulette."
It's such an escalation.
From
like
dice to
we're going
one
from
of us
like
is dead.
yeah, poker and dice to like fuck it. We're gonna try and kill each other. All right, like
I was also
loser leaves town and life.
I was shocked. This episode is only 20 minutes long. Like,
Oh,
yeah, it's crazy how short it is, but like a bunch of shit happens in it. Sam is like immediately just like, "Dude, you're nuts." And then Reno says he has no character, and then Sam immediately gets mad, and it's like, "I got a 44 out in my car. Let's do this." So you immediately cut out to the parking lot where Sam's getting a gun out of his glove compartment. Sam says he'll go first, and Reno says, "Fine, it's his gun. He says, you can go first, but I'm loading it and spinning it." So Reno like takes all the bullets out, puts one back in, spins the chamber, spins the chamber and hands it back. Sam like sort of hesitating for a minute, pulls the trigger, and nothing happens. So he hands the gun over to Reno, who is again also kind of like panicking. And like Sam's kind of egging him on a little more, and he pulls the trigger and it's empty, and then Sam delivers this crazy dialogue that's like Sam says something like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, you just thinking about it?" And he goes, "Thinking about it's the fun part. Thinking about it, thinking about what's going to happen. Listening to that little wheel of fortune click and turn into place when you ease back the hammer, feeling the metal get warm against your skin, wondering what it's going to be like to feel your brains blown out through the side of your head, wondering what comes after, if anything, or black, wondering if you're gonna scream. What do you think, Sam? You gonna scream? Yeah, you will." Lance Henriksen, I can't state it enough, is just fucking killing it in this episode with his fucking weird tiny mustache and his cowboy hat. So Reno hands the gun back to Sam, offers him to quit if he leaves town, and Sam is just like, "Fuck that." Pulls again and nothing happens. Reno goes again and nothing happens. Hands the gun back to Sam, and as Sam's like hesitating, a car pulls up and just yells.
this is my favorite part of the episode, honestly.
So good. He just like, dude just drives up and is just like, "You want me to leave the keys in it or what?" And Reno tells him to. Reno just goes, "Park it yourself, asshole." And like, they like Reno and this dude are bickering, and Sam just runs over and pulls the gun on the guy, tells him, and they just like,
He's like, "My friend said, get the fuck out of here," or like whatever.
it's like, I just like the scene because it just shows that if they weren't like weird gambling addicts, that they would probably be friends.
Yeah, for sure.
This dude just fucking hauls ass out of there backwards in his car. Calls him a bunch of crazy fucking lunatics. So Reno reminds Sam it's his move, and Sam goes and it's empty. Like pretty much in between each one, they're kind of like bragging about their odds, where it's like 5-1, 4-1, whatever.
You got a 50-50 shot.
Yeah. At this point, there's only one chamber left that has to have the bullet. So Sam's like bragging about Reno's odds, and Reno's just like, fuck it. He's like, I just want you to like listen to all this, get it on my tombstone, just so everyone knows that like he's a man of his word. He's going out strong.
That's my favorite part. It's like, Reno's going out strong. Like, yeah, man. Whatever you say.
I mean, props to him. He pulled the fucking trigger, but it was apparently a dud bullet. Reno's immediately pissed and thinks Sam cheated. They argue for a minute, and then, like, Sam suggests they go in the back and play chop poker, which is a term I have never heard before, but I am into it.
That seems like a de-escalation. Like,
Yeah.
you know? I don't know.
I mean, losing a
pretty
finger,
rough, but it's not instant death.
Let's say losing a finger to losing your brains is probably de-escalation. Like, the only other thing, I'm like, obviously I'm aware that shit like this probably happens, but the only other thing I've seen in like a movie that's kind of remotely like this is the last section of Four Rooms. Have either of you seen that?
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's like Tim Roth plays like this bellhop in a hotel, and it's just like he goes to like 4 different rooms and these like 4 like separate stories, but the last one has like Quentin Tarantino acting in it and somebody else, and the whole thing is like they're arguing about like something like, oh, like if I can light this lighter like 10 times in a row, like I win, and if I lose you can like cut off my finger or whatever. And like Tim Roth gets like wrapped up into this somehow, where he's the one that's got to hold the butcher's knife, and it's just all of this arguing where it's getting like real tense, and like it goes immediately, like he flips the lighter and it doesn't light, and Tim Roth within like half a second chops off the dude's finger, just turns around and walks out. It's pretty fucking funny. You should watch it. It's a good movie. So they go into the back to play chop poker, and they're just kind of egging each other on more. Sam has 2 pair. Reno has 3 ladies. It grabs the butcher's knife and asks him which finger. Sam. So yeah, this is what Kid and I are going to do at Migration Fest next year, by the way.
Absolutely. We should just do it like at the stage while a band is playing.
It's going to be our Migration Fest episode of I Hope You Suffer.
Like
Screaming.
take bets on like what song they're gonna play next.
Yes.
And whoever loses a finger.
I'm going to lose all because I'm going to be like, I don't know who this band is. So, like, Sam takes off a ring, I think his wedding ring, puts his hand out, and he's like, be careful, only one, as Reno comes down and cuts off his pinky finger. And so the next...
Really good on that. Like
every...
it helps that it's quick, too, so it's like, oh shit, I think he just cut off that dude's pinky for real.
It rules. And, like, Sam's face every time he loses a finger. Like, it's like, like noise. I love it. So, the next game, Reno has 3 aces, and Sam loses another finger.
Fuck.
Reno tells Sam that he's going to pickle his fingers in a jar to show to all of his buddies, which seems extremely cruel.
Gross.
So,
very weird.
The next hand they play, Reno has a pair of 10s, Sam has a pair of jacks. So Reno goes to put out his hand and tries to make a deal to give one of Sam's fingers back. They could get a fucking nurse down there to like sew him back on. And Reno says no and immediately takes off his index finger, which is kind of fucked up because the first one that Sam lost was a pinky finger.
Right?
He's like, aim that goddamn thing.
He lost like his 2 like least valuable fingers, I would say. Like fucking Reno immediately loses like his top fucking most valuable finger, I guess, other than a thumb. But
Also, I would totally offer that dude back both of his fingers
to not
in order to keep my finger. Like, I don't give a shit. You can keep your fingers,
I
whatever.
I would be like, you could tell everybody I'm a pussy. I'm leaving.
Yeah. I'm gonna walk away. I'm taking the knife also.
So pretty much as soon as Reno loses his index finger, it cuts to a hospital, like, nursing home room. and it is Sam and Reno playing checkers. Neither of them have arms or legs. So it escalated very quickly.
And, like, how did they continue?
I mean, I'm assuming someone else did it for them.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how long you would have to sit there to cut through a leg to keep going, and then to lose another leg?
With
like,
that lever.
Yeah.
Well, you also...
And is it, like, you lose your whole forearm? Is it, like, half of your arm?
I was going to say, it was, like, fingers to hands, then to, like, toes to feet, and then probably just working their way up. It all sounds terrible. Don't gamble. It's going to lead you to losing all of your appendages.
That's right.
But it's,
Gamble safe out there,
PSA.
everyone.
it's essentially them just, like, arguing about checkers, or, like, Reno makes a move and tells Sam to king him, and Sam's like, "You idiot, you just left me open for a triple jump." Then they kiss. Yeah, they just, like, it cuts out on them just getting, like, nose to nose, like, bickering. And then you just cut back to the Crypt Keeper, who is cooking their fingers.
I mean, that's what this whole thing was about. It was just the sexual tension, you know?
Pretty much. They should have just fucked and got it over with.
I mean,
Would have been way easier.
it was a different time, I guess.
I want to see that episode now. Yeah, so that's cutting cards. And then our last episode was Kit's pick. If you want to tell them what you picked and why.
I went with the season 2 episode, The Ventriloquist Dummy, starring Bobcat Goldthwait and Don Rickles.
All you need to know is why you picked it is Bobcats in it.
Right? Like that. That's half of it. No,
The other half is
I
Don
love
Rickles.
this episode. I love this episode because it's kind of like the perfect distillation of what Tales from the Crypt is, like for me at least, because it is very creepy and strange, super out there, has a very warped sense of humor, some very good gross out effects, and then at the very end has just a really fucked up twist. So it's just the perfect combination of things that I love about Tales from the Crypt.
This is one of those episodes that I always remembered, but I forgot about the last, like, 5 minutes of it.
Yes.
It was just like I remembered everything that leads up to the reveal, and then, like, everything after it, I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, because it's like, you know, Tales from the Crypt is definitely not the first or last episode, like, TV series that has done, like, a ventriloquist dummy episode, right? It's, like, in everything, but this one really took a twist that, like, I definitely didn't see coming, that's for sure.
It fucking rules so much. Like Kit said, it's, like, a pretty perfect, like, encapsulation of what, like, the show was, where it's, like, super weird, got a pretty good sense of humor, and just, like, generally, like, creepy and gross. Like, they'd had, like, some episodes as they went along that kind of went more into, I mean, like, cutting cards too is, like, less horror, but just kind of, like, a weird fucked up sense of humor to it. But this one is just straight up, like, funny, but, like, extremely weird funny.
In a terrifying way, you know?
This is,
Well, and the thing I like about this one too is that, like, there's a lot of them that sort of are, like, weird stuff happens because of, like, magic, or, like, there's a few about voodoo, but there's just, like, this is just, like, just very weird to be, like, it's kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like, you're not in a universe where, like, this is a thing that could happen. It's not a, you know, it's just, like, it's insane.
I wish this shit happened in real life.
I mean, like,
I don't.
the logic behind it, I guess, like, sort of does happen, but it's just, like, it's just, like, very far from left field.
Yeah, it's like they took an idea of something that, like, kind of happens in real life, but not really. but then just like exaggerated it to like its logical conclusion.
Yeah.
Before we jump in, Kit, did you want to go over like top episodes?
Yeah. Cutting Cards is a favorite for sure. Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone, where Joe Pantoliano is he's like a drifter, and he gets like the part of a cat brain implanted in him, so he has 9 lives and becomes a like magician who dies.
That's a good one. I haven't seen that in a long time.
For Crying Out Loud, where the dude is trying to grift a bunch of bands out of their money, but his conscience all of a sudden starts yelling at him, and he winds up murdering like his accountant or something, and he's trying to like cover up her murder while his conscience is trying to get him to fuck up and tell the cops about it. And then Death of Some Salesman.
Tim Curry.
Yeah, or Tim Curry plays a whole family.
That's pretty much all you need to know about that episode. Alright, so Ventriloquist Dummy originally aired June 5th, 1990. Directed by Richard Donner. Who
Superman.
Yeah, I also believe is like an executive producer of the entire series. Like I think he directed a couple episodes, Tales from the Crypt. But yeah, did like the first 3 Superman movies in like the 70s and 80s. I don't think he did 4. I don't even know if he did all 3. I don't know. He's at least pretty much known for at least like the first 2 Superman movies. This was written by Frank Darabont, which I did not know. But like I think most people know Frank Darabont like created the Walking Dead TV show basically, but also directed like The Mist, which has the best ending of any movie.
Yeah.
So bleak.
Shawshank Redemption. No, wait. It's either Shawshank Redemption or Green Mile. I forget which one. I think it's Shawshank Redemption.
Same diff.
I mean, that's all Stephen King shit, so.
Right.
But this one stars Don Rickles as Mr. Ingalls, and then Bobcat Goldthwait as Billy Goldman. Both fucking crushing it. Don Rickles is like legit really good in this episode.
Yes.
And Bobcat is just yelling
Bobcat.
a lot. Except that his performance, like when he gets on stage, is real good. He like does that. He plays that like nervous energy like real well.
Yes. Like in Scrooged.
Yeah. He like he went
His
on.
voice is like so unique too.
Yeah, he went on to be like a fucking pretty like in demand director. Like he directs a shit ton of stand-up specials that like Netflix puts out, and does like a bunch of like, I think he's done like a bunch of like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and just kind of a bunch of like TV stuff.
He's done a Sasquatch movie.
What?
Willow Creek, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that was him. I see that pop up every once in a while. I'm gonna have to watch that now. I'm assuming it's terrible.
It's found footage, and I hope it's just like quiet through the whole thing, and then they finally see Bigfoot at the end, and you just hear Bobcat Goldthwait behind the camera be like, "Wow!"
Yeah, I was gonna say, I hope Bobcat is Bigfoot, and just him like doing that like voice as Bigfoot. All right.
Good evening, Fearfans. You're just in time. Contents: one ventriloquist dummy, Hackme Novelty Company, Battle Shriek, Michigan. Oh, goody. Watch this, kiddies. You won't see my lips move. You know why? I don't have any. Well, hello, Dickie. Would you like me to tell a tale from the crypt? No thanks, Scat Brat. Then how about sitting a little closer to the fire? That's better. Now I can dole out a diseased little ditty about the schizophrenic nature of showbiz and how to hack your way to the top. So grab hold of your guts, kiddies, 'cause tonight you get to rub elbows with the ventriloquist's dummy.
So this movie opens with Don Rickles performing with his ventriloquist dummy named Morty, but he's essentially just performing a Don Rickles routine of just making fun of everybody in the crowd.
I love that there's like someone who's like talking while he's telling a joke, and he calls him the fat guy. But Don Rickles like yells, "I see ya, the fat guy." It's just like, what?
I feel like that was probably just like a line in the script that he just read. Like it was probably like, you know, say "I see you," and it was just like the fat guy. I do like. Again, like we said, like Don Rickles is like real good in this episode, but if you watch him during this thing, like anytime Morty's talking, I don't know if he can actually do ventriloquism. I should have looked it up, but he like legit does that like mouth thing where like his lips are open.
Yeah.
And like
He seems like someone that could do it.
yeah, I don't know, because I mean it's blatantly Don Rickles' voice as Morty, but you know, that could obviously just, again, be, like, overdubbed, but it did really seem like it. I don't know. But it's, like, you see this, like, little kid in the crowd that is, you find out is Billy, who's just, like, loving it. It's just more of Don Rickles making fun of people. You eventually...
Being rude, to be honest.
Well, that was Don Rickles' entire shtick. Like, all he did as a comedian was make fun of everybody. It was, like, a huge dick to him. But then apparently was, like... I could be making this up. I heard he was supposed to be, like, a super sweet guy off stage, but who knows? He was very popular in, like, the 60s and 70s, which were not a good time. So...
Yeah.
So backstage, you got Billy's getting an autograph, and, like... Ingalls asks him, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And his mom immediately cuts in, like, he's going to be a doctor. And he's like, I want to be a ventriloquist. And you know that mom was just like, fuck.
Yeah, shit.
I fucked up somewhere. Mr. Ingalls, like, tells Billy if he ever needs his advice to look him up. Which is also another terrible idea. I can't imagine any comedian doing that at this day and age.
What a horrible idea.
I'm just gonna write down my fucking address on the back of this autograph. Just come find me.
Yeah, just hit me up whenever. It's fine.
I'm sure you won't murder me and wear my face. You cut to like a woman coming downstairs to go on a date with Mr. Ingalls, who is not feeling well. But Morty is raring to go. She's just like flirting with Morty, and it's just kind of like, oh, you're cute too, to like Mr. Ingalls, and it's all weird. I hate it. Ventriloquist dummies are gross, and people should not flirt with them.
Firm agree. Hard stance against dummies.
Yeah. We're against dummies on this podcast.
Yeah, except us.
Yeah. We're the only dummies around here.
You get this weird quick shot of like some like place with like cabins, I guess. That
Is it supposed to be a hotel? Like
yeah,
a motel, I mean?
I guess. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Like, there's not much explanation other than the fact that it's like a cabin. But I guess it could just be like a bunch of cabins people stay at. But it's also weird to think that, I don't know, I have this idea that Billy's parents drove him somewhere to stay overnight to watch this ventriloquist that...
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
But either way, you hear like a woman yelling about a fire. You cut to Billy in his, like, wherever they're staying, some room, like practicing being a ventriloquist with this picture of Mr. Ingalls, and he's fucking terrible at it.
Kids are fucking weird.
Yes. That kid would get bullied, probably did get bullied very hard.
Yeah,
No
I
wonder
mean,
he grew up to be Bobcat.
he's got like a little like he's got like geeky glasses and like a little like tux with like a bow tie, so like for sure.
There was like a trivia thing about that kid. I'm gonna look up real quick, but essentially,
He's Brad Pitt.
I think that might have been what it was. So like he's pretending, he's like practicing as if this like picture is the dummy, and his mom yells up for him to go to bed. As he's like going to bed, he hears like a fire truck go by, like the siren, and like looks out the window, and it's essentially it's just you realize that he's around the same area that whatever this fire is happening is at. And then it immediately cuts to 15 years later. Somehow Billy now looks like a 40-year-old Bobcat.
Young Billy is. Oh,
Alright, did you look it up? Because I have it now.
go ahead.
Billy is now an actress known as Courtney Mellinger.
Okay, see, I was not really sure if this was like the information from like when this information was. So yeah.
Yeah, like apparently Billy came out as trans, which is pretty cool. But they also have like usually it'll have like, you know, like young Billy, like, you know, it'll have like the actor, actress's name, and then put like but billed as whatever, which they don't have
Right.
on here.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
But
It's kind of
they also
interesting
were not
fact.
in anything else, so.
Yeah, that was also the only thing they did.
Interesting.
Also, fun fact, the lady that hits on Don Rickles later is his daughter.
Yeah, I saw that and was weirded out.
Gross. Oh, Mindy. Oh, ew.
Yeah, the like sex worker that like tries to pick him up later. So you cut to 15 years later, and it's Billy pulling up to Mr. Ingalls' house with his dummy Tim.
And sweet ponytail.
Yes, my next note is Bobcat's hair is fucking great. Also, Bobcat, again, like, I can't state it enough how good Bobcat and, like, Don Rickles are in this, but they're both just, like, crushing it. Bobcat, like, knocks on the door, and Mr. Ingalls is just, like, yelling at him to get lost. And essentially, Billy just starts explaining who he is, and, like, he lets him in. Billy starts explaining that he was at the last performance that Mr. Ingalls gave, and sees Morty's, like, the case Morty's kept in up on, like, a shelf. He goes to grab it, and Mr. Ingalls yells at him and says that they're both retired. Billy then just picks up a newspaper clipping that, for some reason, is just laying on a table from 15 years ago. About a famous showgirl dying in a fire and this famous ventriloquist that was injured.
Nothing weird about having that out at all.
Also, nothing weird about the idea of famous ventriloquist. Although I guess we do have Jeff Dunham now, which is unfortunate.
I don't acknowledge his existence, so.
Hard stance against Jeff Dunham.
Yes.
I only acknowledge his existence in the episode of 30 Rock he's in. That's it. Mr. Ingalls says that he isn't sure how, like, the fire started that night, and then, like, says that he lost everything too, and then shows, like, this stump he has now for a hand that's just, like, covered in this black fabric. Billy just says, well, why didn't you just operate Morty with your left hand? And Mr. Ingalls is like, left? That's good for opening doors and swatting flies. This is the hand that had the magic in it.
Which I find offensive as a left-handed person.
Well, you are wrong.
No.
I mean, you were never a ventriloquist, were you? So maybe he has a point.
If you ever told me you tried to be a ventriloquist, this friendship would be over.
No, and actually, one of
Off the
my
podcast.
one of my friends who I don't think he doesn't listen to the podcast, but he's like really into ventriloquist dummies. I did a commission for him that you can see on my Instagram of Slappy, the dummy from Goosebumps, and it was like horrifying. It was like the worst commission I've ever had because like I hate dummies, and the picture turned out pretty good. But so I found this like there's like a ventriloquist dummy museum somewhere that I mistakenly sent him a picture from, and he like constantly sends me post updates from it, and I'm just like, this is the worst shit I've ever seen. So now he torments me with them.
All I got from that story is that everybody should commission you to draw pictures of dummies.
Yes.
I mean, I'll do it, but I feel bad for his partner because like he commissioned it and he was like, well, I'm only going to put it up during Halloween, but he has it up like all year and I don't think his partner likes it. So I was like, I'm so sorry.
Is his partner a ventriloquist dummy?
Now that's a Shyamalan twist.
Yeah. That's just an unfortunate twist.
Yeah, like I said, a Shyamalan twist.
Yeah, other than like 2 of his movies.
Dang, yeah. Man, he really took a turn downhill, but
it was all the plants, as the plants did it.
Oh.
I blame hot dogs. They earn their bad rap, even if they do have a cool shape.
All I can think about now...
There's gonna be like 4 people that understand that.
All I can think about now is that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode with Frank trying to eat the sausages out of his pockets, filming the Shyamalan movie.
Gross.
So, Billy tells Mr. Ingalls that he came because he's performing for the first time on the stage that he saw Mr. Ingalls on, and hopes he would come and give him some pointers afterwards. Then tells him that ever since he saw him, he knew that that's what he wanted to do, and that he's his idol. And Billy goes to leave, and Mr. Ingalls tells him, like, stops him, and he's like, Billy, wait. And Billy's like, huh? And he's like, you forgot your act. Points at the dummy on the couch. And then as Billy's like leaving all dejected, Mr. Ingalls says he'll think about coming. You cut to the club that Billy's going to perform at, and some woman is performing Camptown races while twirling some batons because it's like open mic night essentially. Imagine
we need to bring that act back.
Imagine going to a club and that's just the act you're watching. And then backstage there's a lady just doing like the glass music thing that you play at, like it's a song you play on like the rims of glasses.
Oh yeah.
Apparently 1990 was the 1950s.
I love that Bobcat's backstage watching the Camptown races thing, and like the promoter, I guess, back there is like, that's the secret to amateur night. Make sure you have big tits.
Oh.
What?
I mean, yeah.
I guess that keep that in mind.
Oh my god,
Lady
that
comedians
reminds me.
going to amateur night.
That reminds me of. Have you guys seen Dinner for Schmucks?
Yes.
With Paul Rudd and
Steve
Carell, and one of the.
not.
Oh my god, you should watch it. It's like terrible, but there's this guy in it who has a ventriloquist dummy that is his wife, and she has some big ones, and she's like hitting on people the whole night. She's like, "Are you looking down my shirt?" It's really funny.
I am
Anyways,
cutting out she has some big ones and making it the intro to this episode. So Billy just keeps looking through like this curtain to see if Mr. Ingalls is there. Like as soon as this lady doing the baton twirling comes off stage, like the minute she's through the curtain, this promoter is like shoving Billy out on stage, and like as if he's going to lose money at this jam-packed room for fucking amateur night for some reason.
No between acts.
Billy goes running out and sits down, and as soon as he starts his act, the head of Tim falls off.
The head of Tim.
Billy is obviously super terrible at this. It is just like doing the shit that you see in like TV shows and movies that like when someone is trying to learn how to be a ventriloquist, they just learn like generic lines to say that have like
I just flew in from Los Angeles,
Yeah.
and boy, are my arms tired.
it's all like the most generic shit. And like Mr. Ingalls at this point has like shown up in the back and it's just like, God damn it, this kid sucks.
He does that awesome like ventriloquist voice where he's like, "Well, hi there. I'm a dummy."
Oh gosh,
Oh, it's so good.
Mickey Mouse.
Yes. Again, Bobcat is like legit really good in this as just like being nervous and awkward and like terrible.
Oh, that's who I meant earlier. I said like his voice is like so suited for it. That's who I meant. He's got this like really weird, awkward, like
Yeah.
cracking voice.
He just, I don't know, he was like the perfect casting for this character.
He was. He's all like sweaty and his hair's like askew.
His
It's like
sick balding ponytail that's just like fucking hair popping out everywhere. He's got like the same ponytail as Bill in like the 90s Stephen King It movie.
oh my god.
God.
Oh my god. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So people start booing and start leaving. Billy thinks the way to save his act is to introduce Mr. Ingalls in the back, who immediately leaves the room. And you cut to Mr. Ingalls sitting at the bar where he gets hit on by his daughter, who is playing a sex worker. Billy comes in and just like throws Tim down on the bar and says that he was terrible. And Mr. Ingalls, like, at first is like, it was alright. And then Billy just kind of looks at me and he's like, no, it was pretty fucking bad. And just tells him he's like, you're just not made out for this. You need to find a new line of work. Billy apologizes to him, and Mr. Ingalls tells him he's like truly sorry and knows what it's like to have your whole life's dream like crumble in your hands. After Billy leaves, Mr. Ingalls goes and picks up his daughter, who he then murders and leaves in a car.
Bad parent.
Very,
Yeah.
very not good.
You want to avoid that, in general.
Billy is like outside and is just like walking next to a dumpster that he just throws Tim at. Like not even in the dumpster, just like bashes Tim against this dumpster. And then hears someone yell and goes running over, and this is where he sees like this woman's body, who I guess had her throat slit. And like people are kind of surrounded the car and like arguing and talking over each other, and he just says no one smoke because like he could smell gas. Puts his jacket over this woman, and next thing is like cuts to him barging into Mr. Ingalls' house as Mr. Ingalls is like injecting himself with morphine.
Ooh.
Yep, something's coming.
As you do.
Yes. I mean, I feel like if I had this issue going on, probably same.
I mean, yeah.
Actually, I would just kill myself. Because this seems terrible.
Yeah.
Not a great existence.
No.
I mean, I guess it's better when you're not a ventriloquist, at least, right?
I mean, like...
I feel like it's only beneficial if you are a ventriloquist.
Yeah, but then you have to tell people you're a ventriloquist, and like that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, either way, this is just not a life you want to live. Either having this fucking thing on your hand or being a ventriloquist. So Billy takes like the morphine from him and like breaks the bottle or fucking syringe or whatever, and like confronts him about killing this woman. He also is like yelling at him about starting the fire years ago, and Mr. Ingalls said that yes, he started the fire, but he didn't kill anyone. And Billy asked him who did it, and he said Morty did it. Mr. Ingalls goes, he hates women. He's never been able to have a woman in a normal way. I tried to stop him, but there's just no reasoning with Morty. He's very willful. He's very psychotic.
I don't like it.
You're just thinking about Morty having sex with a woman.
Oh,
A woman with big
Uh,
limbs.
now I am. Fuck.
I'm just gonna let that sit for a minute. Let everybody just think
Well,
about that.
it's
Who hasn't seen the episode is very confused, and they're
yeah,
like
yeah.
a dummy.
I mean, regardless, it's either what you know happens in the episode, or you're thinking of a ventriloquist dummy having sex with a woman. Either way, it's not fun. Just think of the Crypt in Critters: A New Binge going down on that woman, and it's much better.
Ugh.
I'm gonna roll down on you.
I think if you think about what was that puppet movie, Team America, America Team? Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it was like
Yes,
all puppets.
American Teen
and there's,
Police World.
Yeah, and there's like that really intense like puppet sex scene.
Puppet banging.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Anyways,
BT dubs.
I'd
it's-
rather think
it's
about that
Team
than
America.
like Team America. There you go. America,
Um,
yeah, gonna save
Hey,
the
we're
motherfucking day.
gonna get sued. Matt Stone and Trey Parker are gonna sue us when they obviously download this episode and listen to it.
That's right.
Uh,
We're crediting them. They're fine.
No, we're not.
Publicity in 2019.
Billy tells Mr. Ingalls that like he can take him somewhere. There's people out there that can help him because he thinks he's crazy. And Mr. Ingalls is like, I'm not crazy, and tells Billy he should leave before Morty tries to hurt him. Billy goes to pull Morty's case down from the shelf and is opening it as Mr. Ingalls is grabbing a butcher's knife. All the time this is kind of like happening, and Billy's going through this like case that Morty's supposed to be kept in. You see him kind of like talking to himself, I guess. Like he's like, it seems like he's losing it, but like you realize he's talking to Morty. Billy pulls the dummy out, which has no head on it, as Mr. Ingalls swings a knife at him and misses. They struggle for a bit, and Mr. Ingalls yells at Billy to look at Morty's head, which he pulls out and is just a mask. And then he's just like, Morty is flesh and blood, and then just pulls this cloth away from his hand, revealing the most fucked up thing I think I've ever seen.
Oh my god, it's so gross.
Fine.
It is Mr. Ingalls' brother, Morty, who is growing out of his hand. Or essentially it was like his brother that like just kind of like if you've seen the movie Basket Case, but not almost weirder than Basket Case. Like it's just like
Basket Case meets Quado.
yes, it's like his brother somehow just became his hand and is just like somehow still alive, but is just this weird fucked up puppet on his hand. It's crazy.
Ew, it's so gross. He has like this weird, like balding, like ring of hair, and he's like wet looking, and he's got like bulging eyeballs. It's really gross.
I guess
It's
he
sweaty
looks like
under
sweating.
that.
Be
Yeah.
a velvet bag.
Going through probably going through morphine withdrawals too. Like there's all kinds of shit fucked up with Morty.
But his voice is like the little dummy voice, and he's like, "Hey, Billy." Well, he doesn't
He's
say
trying to threatening like we should totally kill him.
It rules when like him and Billy are like fighting each other and trying to insult each other later. Mr. Ingalls starts basically explaining that like he kept Morty drugged up and away from the ladies for 15 years before Billy came and stirred things up.
away from the lady.
God damn it, Billy! How dare you?
Yeah.
You were the cause of this.
Morty starts demanding that Ingalls kills Billy, and Billy says, like, starts trying to tell, like, Mr. Ingalls, like, he's in control, not Morty, and Morty starts, like, spouting off that it was his idea to, like, go into show business and designed the act and wrote all the material, and, like, Mr. Ingalls, like, pauses for a moment, and then, like, holds Billy down with Morty over Billy's throat.
Ugh.
Which,
Something away from me.
like they're kind of like this whole time he's kind of choking Billy a little bit, but like Mr. Ingalls and Morty are like arguing, and Morty is just like yelling at him to kill him. Billy like rolls out of the way as Mr. Ingalls cuts Morty off of his arm with this fucking butcher's knife. Also, I guess sort of tying into cutting cards now.
Why didn't he just like do that a lot
just
sooner?
have him removed immediately.
Right. Yeah.
Like, how did his parents let this happen?
Yeah, because he's like pretty old at this point. So like, what a weird.
His life. I need to see. This was what the first Tales of the Crypt movie should have been about. Was just Mr. Ingalls and Morty's life.
I'd watch it.
Hard same. Tales from the Crypt. Robert Zemeckis. I know you listen. Make this movie.
Out there.
Bobby.
So,
Do a scene.
So Mr. Ingalls has cut Morty off of his hand and is now like leaning up on the couch and just like bleeding out through his arm, and Billy runs over and is like tells him like he's gonna be okay, and Mr. Ingalls is like, it doesn't matter because I'm finally free now. And Morty's like, you're finally free, like I'm finally free, and is just scurrying around the fucking room.
Like
Nathan, you need to do his quotes in his voice.
I don't think I can.
Yeah,
My
Nathan,
voice is like
free.
too deep for
Right.
that. Also, it would probably hurt my throat.
This point is like the literal stuff of nightmares.
It's
He's like,
bonkers.
God. It's horrifying to watch him move around.
yeah.
I hate it.
It's so good though. I love it. Like the last 5 minutes of this episode of just Bobcat fighting a fucking puppet hand is maybe the best thing that's ever happened.
Well, like as soon as he like is revealed, I was like, the rest of it, it's to use Kit's term, it was like a fever dream. I was like, what is happening?
I can't even imagine watching this for the first time, like as it aired on TV.
Oh my god. Personal highlight is Bobcat Goldthwait yelling, "You inbred fucking Cabbage Patch Kid."
Yeah, I have like most of Bobcat's quotes towards him. So like as Billy is trying to like help Mr. Ingalls, Morty just runs up and bites him on the throat, like Mr. Ingalls on the throat, and rips it open and kills him. Billy grabs a baseball bat and says, "All right, you little fucker, I'm gonna park you in the cheap fucking seats." So he's like, Billy's stalking around the house with this baseball bat as a knife gets thrown and stuck into the bat that Morty threw at him, and just says, "Get the point?"
That was pretty good.
Oh, that hurt. Billy just starts swinging this bat fucking wildly everywhere.
I just want to point out that's like the same voice you used when you did the intro for me that one time.
Basically,
So
you kind of sound like Morty.
rude.
This is when like I think Billy or Morty is like in between like the stove and like maybe the sink, like staring up at Billy, and Billy is when he calls him an inbred fucking Cabbage Patch Kid, and then he's going to turn him into brain fucking pie. Like he just is like kind of swinging at him and missing, and like eventually Morty jumps on Mr. Ingalls' shoulder, and Billy goes to swing at him and just bashes Mr. Ingalls' dead body in the head. Billy then notices like Morty is like on a loose board on the floor, and like is kind of like mocking Billy or whatever, and Billy kicks the board that he's standing on and knocks Billy in the air, which that like hits him with the bat, which knocks him into a wall where he lands in a meat grinder. Billy runs over and starts like churning him into this meat grinder and says, "I'm making an asshole casserole and you're the ingredient."
Oh my gosh. So whenever I watched this episode, I like tweeted that. I was laughing so hard.
It's the best line. Like I don't.
Asshole casserole is perfect.
Whoever wrote all of this dialogue was just on fire that day. And so,
And
go ahead.
I was just gonna say Morty's like, oh, please help, and he's like crying.
I mean, I feel like I would too.
He's
Going
like,
through a
this
meat
is
grinder.
agony. I mean, yeah.
So like Morty starts pleading with him and says he'll make a deal and become his new partner. And you basically cut to Billy on stage with Morty as his new dummy, who Morty sees a woman walk in and says, "What a tomato," like Stan from TerrorVision.
Tomato.
And eventually, like, basically, Billy's trying to do the act, and Morty's just saying a bunch of gross shit about this woman. And Billy's just like, that's it, we're done, and starts, like, screaming in agony as Morty somehow has fused himself to Billy's hand, which is even more fucked up than before, because now Billy's fingers are, like, sticking out from under him. And it's real gross. And then there's just like a Crypt Keeper like outro with like a ventriloquist dummy that I don't remember anything funny being in. And that's the end of the ventriloquist dummy. Maybe the best episode of the whole series. At least
Definitely
the craziest.
Yeah, definitely one of the most like fucked up ones for sure.
Awesome.
An incredible 30 minutes of television. Give me 30 minutes of that every week.
I would put this up against any episode of Mad Men or Lost or The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, any of them. This episode's better.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the 3 episodes that we all pretty much wanted to talk about that weren't going to be gross or offensive. Because it's not.
There's a lot of them that were like.
I feel like Dead Right would have been like a good one to talk about, but just because of how fucking crazy it is, but also it's pretty gross.
Yeah.
And we did Thinner, so we basically covered the whole fat suit thing.
That's true.
I don't know if this is the first episode that you've ever listened to, because I don't know, maybe you've stumbled across it on Bandcamp. We have about, right now, the time of this recording, we're at like 60 episodes of the regular podcast, talking about maybe 3 good movies and about 57 terrible ones.
Yeah.
Pretty good ratio.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Right.
We're doing pretty good. Go listen to
Yeah.
Don't even listen to it. Just go watch Tsunami. Just take our word on it.
Oh, God. But go watch Robo Vampire.
Hard agree. But yeah, like our regular episodes, we just do purposefully bad movies because we hate ourselves. And
And each other.
yeah,
Apparently.
like a lot of the time we're just like, oh, I think Katie will hate this movie. Let's do this one. I think Nathan's gonna hate this movie. Let's do this one.
Listen, I have never picked a movie with the thought that somebody was gonna hate it. So.
Well, that's how you get the good ones, like Robo Vampire,
All right.
which I guess you also hated. So.
I didn't hate it, but.
But yeah, check out our back catalog if you've never listened to it before. Katie had a bunch of guest spots originally, and then we brought her on like 10-ish episodes ago, full time, maybe 11, whenever It Chapter 2 came out. Kit and I have suffered through all of the worst movies, like Tsunami.
Oh, I'm sure it's gonna get worse.
Tsunami so far is gonna be a hard one to beat for me.
Don't test me. I'll find something.
100 million BC came close, but that at least had that goofy ass dinosaur in it. But yeah, you can also follow us on a bunch of things that are linked on the Bandcamp page, but if you don't want to do that, you could go to Twitter at I Hope You Suffer and Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. All the regular episodes are pretty much anywhere you find podcasts. Go watch The Ventriloquist Dummy, because it's great. Just watch all of Tales from the Crypt, because it's all pretty good.
Yeah. Agreed.
Definitely watch the Arnold episode. specifically for the intro. Just Arnold.
Yeah, that one was pretty
Arnold
funny.
working out the Crypt Keeper is a perfect visual. Highly suggest getting on YouTube and looking up the episode of Secrets of the Crypt Keeper's Haunted House, because it is delightfully terrible.
You can also watch all of Tales from the Crypt on YouTube if you can't afford to buy it.
Yeah, I think every episode's on there. At least
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
all the ones I've looked up are on there. Or just get people to give you gift cards and buy the DVDs, like I did. Yeah, I don't know. I hope you suffer, but why?
But why? Meat shake.
Yeah.
Meat shake.